Good afternoon, everybody. It's Beverly Poole here from Aspire for Business Consultancy, and we've got online today David Taylor, who is the Managing Director of DNA6, who is also, thank you, David, my thought leader for my Aspire for Business Academy. Now, the reason that David and I want to come online is to talk about the digital education marketplace and the digital business marketplace. And it's something that we've been talking about for quite a long time, and the sort of the upskilling or the lack of skills that are available at the moment in this digital marketplace. Now, David is associated with, has been associated with government departments, with the NHS. He's been doing a lot of work with a lot of different types of companies. And we in January will be bringing together a webinar for people to be able to come and ask questions of us about the digital marketplace. So I'm going to pass over to you, David, just to say hello to everybody, and we're going to talk about this double negative that we've sort of talked about this morning, and also the double positive that might come from that. So if I hand the stick over to you, you can take it off me and take it away, David, because you're the expert in this field, I'm sure.
That's very TikTok, Beverly. I have to say, for those of you watching this, will know TikTok. It's about passing the baton over and then the other person gets it in the window.
Gets it the other side, yeah.
I love it. I'm absolutely thrilled you've asked me on here today, Beverly.
Thank you.
I've really devoted the last 10 years of my life to digital skills in some way, shape or form. And I've done social media training. I've done digital management consultancy. I've worked with the Federation of Small Businesses, gone around the country, really trying to understand what it is that makes businesses tick and what they are lacking in today's world. And what we know, Beverly, is that from number of surveys which have been held by banks and the government, is that there is a digital divide developing.
Yes.
Too many D's there, sorry.
Digital divides, yeah.
What's happening is that pre-COVID, a small proportion of businesses were hungry, ambitious, and would pivot their offering for the new world. And they were digitally hungry and were able to adapt to the digital paradigm that we now live under. But many businesses could not see the imperative. It was all about the bottom line. Don't tell me, I've been in business for a long time. I know all my customers and I don't need to be told by all these young whippersnappers about using Instagram and data and cloud computing and such like.
Yeah.
So, but what's happened is that those businesses are falling further and further and further behind. And that was pre-COVID.
Is that a generation thing, David? Do you think that's a generation thing? People that have established businesses that haven't brought in younger people, you know, sort of our age, let's say?
So it's an interesting one. The average age of a company director in the UK is 53, and they're more likely than not to be male and white. So the male, pale and stale is still very much in the ascendant. Well, I should probably say in the descendant now.
Yeah.
And the people, I mean, dare I say it, I am of that ilk. I am in my 50s. I am white. I am male. I am a company director. So I'll have to take myself out of the equation. But on a serious note, certainly men of my age don't like to admit what they don't know, and they will thwart youngsters in the business coming through with new ideas if they don't understand it or feel comfortable. But also, I think it's worth bearing in mind that pretty much our generation, we never interfaced with technology at any stage. Yeah. I left university with a 2-1 without touching a computer. I didn't have a mobile phone. The internet had not been distributed to normal people. Yeah. So this generation, our generation, we did not have tech. That is an issue. And a lot of those people in charge of businesses, they may well have a youngster or a marketing person who's got full of new ideas. But what I can tell you, Beverly, is that very often those people end up being really disheartened because they'll say, do you know what, the boss just doesn't understand what I do. It's like you run a hotel. Oh, let's get a youngster to do the social media thingy.
Yes.
And that's as far as they go.
Yeah,
and
I get it.
And I've worked with company directors and I've said, can you tell me, you personally, what your business is doing on each of the digital channels? And they sort of laugh. Oh, well, I don't need to know about that. I've got some youngster to do it. And I said, but you need to understand it, because it's your business.
And there's some things as well that have sort of come to light in the last couple of weeks. You know, okay, the last year, companies are now actually taking on board a social media manager, which is what they never had before. And don't you think that we're going to get to a stage where we're not just going to have CEOs, we're going to actually have chief digital people actually on the board that really need to understand this stuff, David?
Actually, I slightly disagree with you there, Beverly. I would like to remove the word digital and replace it with just business skills. But I do take your point about someone being on the board who has jurisdiction over communication.
Communication,
so I would say a chief communications officer, a CCO, is absolutely critical. And let's think about what they would have jurisdiction over. So they would be all internal, all external communications. So they would be looking after the intranet, the WhatsApp groups, any LinkedIn groups. They would be overseeing how you recruit staff, how you train staff, how you engage with your suppliers, how you engage with your customers, how you engage with stakeholders, influencers, the media, policy, all of that. And all of that comes under communications. So communications, in my book, has to be sat at the very top table of any business.
So you've also need to have those young people as well that are constantly scrolling and doing that whole thing, because the thing is with that is if you've got like just recently, for example, we've got Fleet, which is now the story that's on Twitter, isn't it? And we've got the day-to-day stories now on LinkedIn as well. And the thought now is that the more that you use that up front, the quicker you're actually going to get noticed, because people will see you more and your stories will come up more. So I think in the team, there have got to be people who are at the forefront of that, which is exactly this double negative that we were just talking about before we came online, for these young people that won't have a job, that maybe that there's an opportunity there. So talk us through talk us through that double negative, David.
So yes, just picking up what you're talking about, stories on LinkedIn and Fleets, and in fact Reels on Instagram as well.
Reels, yeah.
Set. Now, for most people watching this, they probably won't have an absolute clue and never will what any of those things are.
Yeah.
So where are we at today, Beverly? We've got a potential double negative. So what we're talking about is a bunch of male, pale and stale business owners who won't be told, who are probably sitting at home, worried sick about the future, thinking, how on earth am I going to change my business? They may well have directors who said, well, we should have done this 2 or 3 or even 5 years ago. Why haven't we? Because all that COVID has done is accelerated the change which was already taking place. So they're looking at really very, very poor sales for this year. They're looking at the survival of the business. They haven't pivoted it. They're very, very worried. And so potentially you've got this negative where many businesses may either become unprofitable or go bust.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, again, what you were talking about is the youngsters who understand innately Fleets, stories, Reels, Snap, Twitch, all the like, the natural digital natives who for them, it's normal. But what we know is that the greatest unemployment problem facing this country is the 16 to 24-year-olds. So
exactly that group,
who have the digital skills which are required to help the country stay competitive are all on the all on the unemployment heap, so to
Yes.
speak.
Yep.
So we've got a really horrific potential double negative. Loads of youngsters out of work, lots of businesses going bust. That is the worst case scenario.
Yes.
But you and I are nothing if not optimistic and positive. And the positive scenario, and any people watching it are going to be one step ahead of me here, is what we need business owners to start thinking creatively about the future, about what the skills, and again, let's not talk about digital skills. Let's talk about the skills you need to run a business in the 21st century, post-COVID, post-Brexit, digital world. Now, those skills are the very skills that the 16 to 24-year-olds have anyway in spades.
Yes.
So they will be able to, if you wanted to reach out to 17-year-old girls and you have a clothing brand, who better to reach out to 16 or 17-year-old girls is an 18-year-old girl in your business who understands the language, understands all the passages, etc. So the best case scenario must be bringing together business owners who are taking a new look at what is required to run a business, reaching out to the youngsters in their area. So it could be the colleges, it could be the Job Centre Plus, it could be the universities, it could be apprenticeships, but they must be thinking there is a way out, and the way out of this is to get the very people for whom digital is the natural home.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. And of course, there are two things here that I'd like to bring to the table, having worked in post-16 education for 10 years, is that young people don't want to work 9 to 5. And a lot of the group or age group that you're talking about, the directors of companies, want that 9 to 5 sort of workforce. And I think there's got to be also, from the young people's point of view, some flexibility in working hours, you know, this sort of the new generation of working, if you like. And I know myself that a lot of my own daughter's friends, you know, will sit up until 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, they ain't getting up at 7 and taking a lunchbox out with their sandwiches in there to go to the office for 9. You know, it isn't going to happen. And the thing is about all of this, and something in the statistic that we spoke about, was from a Lloyd's report that you sent out and that you also put onto LinkedIn this week, is that 73% of businesses seeking digital skill support don't know where to go, where to get that from, and there isn't actually that much available for them to actually to go and find. So, and that's sort of the next area that comes into this, isn't it?
Well, it's an interesting one again, Beverly, because there is actually a huge amount of information out there for businesses, but you can't see the wood for the trees. There's so much information, and that Lloyd's report revealed that there are a number of sources where people were getting help from. 4%, only 4% of businesses were getting support from digital skills specialists.
Yeah.
3 times as many businesses were getting support from local authorities. They weren't really getting it from growth hubs. They weren't really getting it from other specialist organizations, but 39% had no idea where to go. So it is incredible. There is a huge amount out there, but people don't know where to start, don't know where to go. And therefore, being male, pale and stale, the easy option is to sit on your hands and do nothing.
Yes, that's right. And that's where you and I want to make a difference, don't we? Because we want to make sure that people know where they can go. And I know that you're very involved with some consortiums at the moment that are actually trying to get this information out there in certain areas of the country, which we'll just talk about and in a second. But I just want to say, actually, that in 1990 something, when I wasn't as old as I am now, and I went up, worked with this company, which was called Chrysalis Interactive, which I helped to set up. This was the real start of multimedia, you know, like RAM and all those sorts of things that were really trendy at the time. And we put together these digital notes, you know, of of how businesses could actually use this stuff. We were writing about it then, and it still isn't out there, you know, and this is, you know, like all this whole thing in education that we've just been talking about, which is, you know, blended learning, you know, young people that have to go online and do their training. They will do it in their own time. They will do that stuff in their own time. So right from the 90s, when we first had multimedia, digital online, so people could do Picture Tell, I seem to remember, was the company that did interactive conversation through, you know, so that you didn't have to get Concorde to go to New York and things like that. So we're sort of in this same floating boat, really, of multimedia, interactive, digital skills type environment. So tell us a bit more about what's going on, David, and your involvement in that.
Well, I just slightly wanted to go back a second. One thing which I think is really important to stress, Beverly, is that in many ways, nothing has changed at all about business.
No.
What you need to run a successful business hasn't really changed. Ultimately, you've got customers,
yeah,
you've got staff, you've got suppliers.
Yes.
The job is to create a product using your suppliers and having your staff run your business so you can reach out to your customers, so you can sell to your customers. That hasn't changed. In many ways, human beings haven't changed. The technology has changed. The pathways have changed. The channels have changed. And it's interesting you talking about, say, 25 years ago, understanding the new multimedia landscape as it was then. But really, if you've got an innovative company, if we go back to Ford Motor Company in 1915, when he developed the Model T.
Yes.
If you look at what Henry Ford did then, he was just an innovator.
Yes, that's right.
If you are a business owner now and you are an innovator and you have enough change makers within your business, irrespective of what the latest Reel or Snap or Twitch or cloud computing leap forward we hear about, ultimately, at the end of the day, it is still about being successful at running a business. And
that's right.
And what we're trying to do, so certainly over in the southeast of England, so we're talking Kent, Sussex and Essex, we're trying to bring together a number of different organizations under what we call the digital skills partnerships, whereby schools, colleges, growth hubs, local authorities, tech companies, large companies, SMEs, all trying to work together to understand that we are in this together and that we need to reach out. And I think one of the key challenges is that many businesses aren't online at all. So I think, you know, if you were thinking certainly in terms of Hampshire, if you went to an industrial estate in Southampton, and you went into one of the premises there, and you say, well, you know, what's your digital plan? They just laugh you out the building, because there is still a huge amount of businesses for whom digital doesn't really mean anything at all.
That's right.
It's increasingly even encroaching on those areas.
It's funny, actually, funny you should say that, because when we first started talking, which was some time ago now, you sent to me a sort of an evaluation or analysis of communications that we were actually looking at, and you'd split it down into particular areas of the business. And I think I scored about 76 out of 100 the first time out, which I was really proud of. And of course, what you're saying is right. And people call them change makers these days, and back along in the day they were called ambassadors in business, weren't they? So if you can get people in your business, these people that we're talking about, these industrial estates, these small companies, etc., that need some digital communication or simple social media communication program, it's not just about the marketing strategy and the sales funnel. You've got to have this whole program available to be able to call upon to keep it actually going. So when I talk to people and they go, well, we've got a PR company that does a bit of this, and I do a little bit of the social media, and we put out a little bit of that. It's got to be a little bit more practical than that, doesn't it? It's got to be something that's on a regular basis, is being seen, and takes into consideration everything that's going on inside the company as well.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Beverly. And I think one thing that you are absolutely a specialist in, you are understanding business and understanding that businesses need to have a business plan.
Yeah.
And where you and I are totally aligned is around that, is that really, I don't care if a business is doing a little bit of Facebook. I don't care if they've said, oh, what about some Pinterest? Or, oh, we've got a website.
Yes.
It's like, I don't care. The only thing that you and I would ever care about going into a business is tell me about your business, how it is performing, and what you would like it to do. That is the only thing that matters. So if they say, I'm worried that we aren't engaging with a younger audience of client, or we would like to start selling overseas, or we would like to look at how we can increase our margins. We'd like to understand where we are wasting money. All of those things are the sort of things which make us excited, because they are tangible business goals.
It's called troubleshooting, and we love it, don't we? We absolutely love to go in and do the whole troubleshooting thing, because you can really see a difference very quickly.
And you work backwards from that. And if it turns out that Facebook is a very, very important channel for them, then we create a strategy for it. But if there is no reason for using Facebook, there's no point using it. I've gone in and done social media training courses, and I've said to the person, you do realize that you don't need Facebook for your business. And it's like, oh, well, you know, my daughter said I should come here. But this is what we're saying. This is about business. And what I would always argue is that every business now needs to have a business communications plan. How are they going to communicate with the various stakeholder audience they need to in order to meet the business objectives, but also to get round the fact that we are in the most unpredictable times since the Second World War. And there is no business as usual. So if someone's sitting there smugly saying, oh, well, you know, I'm all right, mate. There's
not going to happen.
So many challenges.
It is. And I said yesterday to somebody, it's not just about having your unique sales point anymore. That's not quite it, because there's lots of people doing the same thing. The way that I've been putting it over to companies, and certainly in this digital conversation that we're having, is about competitive advantage, rather than just having that whole sales process. So working on that, how are the digital skills partnerships actually going to get this information out there, David? How are they actually going to do that to give that competitive advantage?
So there are 7 digital skills partnerships around the country now. And I think the government's idea is that they are run out right across the country, certainly across England. And it's really understanding how that there are 3 key aims, certainly the one in the Southeast. The one is actually understand where the skills challenges lie and start really appraising and understanding the performance of businesses digitally. Secondly is then providing the pathways, the platforms, and the programs to be able to help those businesses, but also mindful of the fact you said earlier about the millennials not wanting to get up early, that we need to be as inclusive and diverse as possible and reach out to the broadest set of audiences. And that includes returning from having children, mothers and fathers. We are talking about people who are newly unemployed. We're talking about people with disabilities. We're talking about those who are socially excluded. those from BAME backgrounds who are not. So we need to try and be as inclusive as possible to try and upskill as many people as we possibly can so we can still remain competitive.
Yes. And it doesn't just have to be, you know, like I've created over the last 2 years the Academy platform, which brings sort of e-learning as hosted training. But it's not just even about what I've brought here. It's about being able to offer companies a little bit more than that, and the opportunity to, you know, to sort of to develop those skills. And a lot of people want to do that in their own time, but they can't afford to do it. So a lot of people that I've been speaking to saying, you know, I don't even know where to start, or I don't even know where I would get the money from to do some training, or, you know, and it's the same for them as well as it is for the companies that want to get those people on board. So there has to be some sort of way of putting those two people together. That's where I'd like to, you know, to sort of make a bit of a difference, really, is accessibility, which is what you're saying. You're saying inclusive and I'm saying accessible. It's got to be accessible.
Well, I think I know, Beverly, that a number of local authorities are really trying to tackle this themselves. I know that West Sussex County Council, for example, they're trying to look at upskilling their economic development officers. So watching this may not realise that every local authority, both at district and at county level, will have economic development officers. Now, no one actually knows the local area better than the local authority. They will know who the businesses are. They'll know how many people are there. They'll know what the educational standards are. Again, what's interesting is that each LEP, which is the local economic partnership, they actually have their own business plans, and therefore they will understand an industrial strategies. So they know where the strength and the weaknesses. So, for example, if you took Hampshire, people at Hampshire, you've got a number of different LEPs within Hampshire. If we took, say, Solent, so Solent LEP would understand what is the educational standard, what is the unemployment issue around Solent, what are the capabilities of the business, what sort of businesses are there, what sectors are there in. So they've got really good knowledge. And it's what I would say is if we could then marry that knowledge with the skills. So again, if we took Solent as an example, Beverly, then you've got around the Solent area a number of digital specialists. And again, what was interesting from that Lloyd's survey is that the digital specialists themselves aren't doing a very good job of getting in front of the businesses who need them. So I think that and this is the idea around the digital skills partnership, if there's a way, again, that you were able to interface the digital skills specialists in an area with the businesses who needed the digital skills, as well as the youngsters who had the innate digital skills in the colleges and the Job Centre Plus through Kickstart, etc., then you've got a virtuous circle.
Yes, absolutely. And so how will we take this forward? I know that we said that in January we'll have a sort of a webinar for people to ask questions and see what information you might be able to pull together for them. But it has sort of come to my attention that you know, that even talking yesterday in a group of business people, that they're so confused about all the different places to go. And that was in a really very tight and very strong business environment. So I think by road mapping something out for people, that might be a really good way to go. I'm not quite sure where that will come from. Maybe the digital skills partnerships will be doing those sorts of things. And you are right, in this area we've got the LEP, we've got Solent, and we've got the M3, etc., etc. And they all have their own fund and they all have their own people. And there isn't sometimes a lot of joined up emphasis on things that need to happen within a particular area, because probably they're targeted in their own right, you know, of achievement.
It's interesting. So I am working with both. Well, I'm actually working both sides of you, Beverly. So I'm working with Dorset Growth Hub,
Yeah.
And I'm also working with Coaster Capital Growth Hub. So
Yes.
Coaster Capital go up to Chichester, and obviously Dorset on the other side. Now, what they have, they are actually working with me where I'm effectively upskilling their business advisors. So their business advisors can diagnose the areas of weakness and opportunity within businesses, and then they can signpost them to support where it's needed, whether that is support that they can work on themselves or whether they need to access outside people. And I think for me, what is critical is that any business does a self-diagnosis of where their strengths and weaknesses are, looking at themselves objectively. It's no different to if you and I in January just thought, you know what, it's a new year, we're going to get fit. And we decided we want to get really, really fit. The first thing you do is you go to the doctor and you say, right, I'm going to see how healthy I am at the moment, because you don't want to try and get fit and then, you know, someone like me keel over and have a heart attack because I haven't done exercise since 1994. So you go and have a health check, and you have to be truthful about where your health is lying. And the same goes with your business is you need to look at your business and saying, is it actually able to deal with a digital world? Are we digitally adaptive or not?
Yes.
And that is critical, because at least it then gives you an idea of where, to use the health analogy, where you need to work on. So maybe give up the fags and the booze before you start trying to do marathon running.
Yes, exactly. And I know, David, and I will just give your business a little plug here, that DNA6 have actually got a lot of diagnostic tools on their site, and that you are one of the probably one of the highest skilled people at the moment that I've been speaking to that's able to bring this into companies. You can pat yourself on the back there, David. And and I'm forever grateful for all the help that you've given to me over the last year. So companies can come to you for that anyway, can't they? And the thought leadership thing we want to do is me just prompting what's going on out there in the marketplace, you being able to give us all that lovely information that we can share, and ultimately to make companies a lot more effective and to give them that competitive advantage, which is what I set out to do in sort of business mentoring. And then the opportunity, of course, to get their stuff online if they really need to. As e-learning. So where should we go from here?
I think what we need to be doing, Beverly, is thinking about 2021. I think most of us would be very, very happy to wipe 2020 under the carpet as the dirty secret. We've cleaned it up, got rid of it. I think if we look at 2021, what we do know, unfortunately, a lot of businesses are going to go under. And a lot of people are going to be made unemployed. And that is really, really, really sad, because there will be some good businesses who've gone to the wall, because literally some businesses cannot pivot online. They cannot. So I think about if you had a shop which was close to a large London station and your footfall disappeared, you can't plan for that.
Yes.
What I would be saying is that we need to be planning for 2021, but we also need to be planning actually for 2025 and beyond.
Yes.
We've got what I would call them is they could be seen as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but equally they could be looked at as the 4 opportunities for very, very agile businesses. Those 4 are, number 1, of course, coronavirus. There have been businesses who've done really well, and there are businesses who it's been the death knell. Secondly, Brexit is happening. No one, not least the EU or the government or the local authorities, have the slightest clue what is going to happen. It could be a land of milk and honey we're in 5 years. And we're all laughing and saying, ha, I knew we were right. But equally, we could be in land where everything's just terrible. And you've got queues everywhere and no one can do any business, and there's tariffs and there's all straight. My feeling is that it will never be as bad or as good as either of those. But then we've got two more. And the two more are AI, so artificial intelligence. Are you talking about competitive advantage?
Yes, exactly.
People are often worried about competitors being actual firms, but if the competitors are actually machines which do your job for you, then that's a bigger problem. And sometimes, and this may sound strange, but sometimes it may be better to get out of that industry now while your business is worth something, rather than wait for the machines to take over.
Yeah, sure.
The final one, which is actually pretty close to my heart, but is going to be very, very important, is climate change. So the incoming president-elect of the USA has just appointed John Kerry as the climate change advisor. Climate change will affect nearly every single business. And therefore, but equally, we know that greening of the economy, there are so many opportunities, Beverly. If people can grasp them, there are a whole range of different methods and technologies which could be adapted, etc. So with all of those, it's not doom and gloom. It could actually be opportunities. But that's what I would be saying is, so in January, what we need to be looking at is how you can really gear your business up for this. And it's a phrase which may have been bandied around several times, what we call today's VUCA world: volatile, unpredictable, chaotic, anarchic.
Yes.
How are we going to prepare our businesses? And all of us, you need to do it, I need to do it, local authorities need to do it, charities need to do it. We all need to say, okay, park 2020. We know that world is crazy and changing. We've got to have a plan. We cannot wing it. Let's be positive. Let's focus, and let's build a plan for 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was all so eloquently put. And you're always so enthusiastic, David, which is why it's always an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And on the issue of climate change and changing things in your company, I am still absolutely astounded at the amount of people that really don't understand the UN Sustainability Development Goals and how they can actually implement those into their business. Unbelievable, really, because it's just making those slight changes, and it's not really even about corporate social responsibility anymore, because you can't measure that. It's about implementing actual proper plans, that will help companies to change and to be more green.
Oh, I would agree, and it's interesting. I would say certainly your daughter's age group, if they think that a business is not particularly green and it is only sort of what they call a greenwash type of business, they won't want to work there. So if you want to attract the best and the brightest, you say, look, we don't give a damn about the environment, you're not going to attract those people. So you actively, it needs to be in the risk register, it needs to be in the business plan, it needs to be in the recruitment, it needs to be in your messaging. It is so important.
Yes, and this actually came to light with me when I was speaking to a very large accountancy company as well recently. They were actually saying that they were trying to put together a program in recruitment where they could actually be and show that they were well-being orientated, because this is what young people wanted to make sure that if they were working for a company, it's very much that two-way thing now, isn't just about you finding a job, it's you finding a company that's actually going to help. Very mindful of the time, David. I think that what you've just said is absolutely spot on, and it's not just about digital skills, it's about planning properly for the next 5 years. And as you very rightly say, don't wait and hang on until you're in financial dire straits. Is go and talk to the insolvency people. They might actually be able to put something together for you, which is another conversation I was having yesterday. But on this issue of digital skills and pulling the double negative and the double positive together, the Digital Skills Partnership hopefully will be able to do that. And of course, companies can come to you at DNA6, which I'll put in the comments, to talk about your diagnostic tools, which I've used, which are just first class. So thank you very much for the opportunity of those. So we'll be back, won't we, in January, and to talk to everybody about what's going on, and you can give us a great update. And so just to say thank you very much this afternoon, David. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always.
Thank you, Beverly.
No problem at all.